My new thing, it fits in a clock, it rakes in a car, pulls on my brain. Are you ready to see? This is my new thing. Are you ready to see? This thing is my new thing. Shyness will show, excitement will glow. I'm sharing this thing. That thing is my new thing.
Hello, hobbyists and obsessors. It's your good pal, Dan Wilbur here.
And I'm Zach Sims.
And this is My New Thing, the show where we talk to comedians about their latest hobbies, their darkest secrets, and their scary, scary divorces. And
Scandals galore.
Scandals galore on this episode. Really fantastic talk with the comedian and now author. I think he's written a book in the past, but now I'm going to... but those didn't count. I didn't like them. So now he's a real author. It's Mike Drucker is here today. How do you feel about that, Zach?
I feel that Mike won our respect today.
He earned it.
Yes.
And we told him coming in, we were like, you better bring it.
We said, we are two tremendously successful men. You barely have a career in this. I can't even say it without laughing. This is your chance to really get two guys to like you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, honestly, what you just said is what Mike wants. So yes. I think he came dressed to impress, mm-hmm. and he really brought it. And I'm so excited for people to listen to this episode. But before we get to it, Zach, what are you obsessed with this week?
Oh, boy. Well, you know what? We were talking about it a little bit. I think my new thing is buying Blu-rays and DVDs. I realize more and more this show is going to be a spotlight on how pathetic my life is. And that's fine.
I don't think that's pathetic, especially considering that that's the only doomsday prepping you're doing. That's sure. What I was thinking about the other day, was that my wife was asking, like, what are we going to do if the grid goes down? And I was like, as long as there's electricity.
Oh, we're going to watch Jules and Jim, baby.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, as long as the electricity is still flowing from those solar panels we don't have, mm-hmm. I will be watching my Blu-rays until they go bad.
My mom is actually prepping for retirement.
Now that's doomsday.
Of course, we all love to work as Americans. Mm-hmm. But the idea, she's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford as many of the streaming services that I have if I'm not working.
Brutal.
So she's been stockpiling DVDs and stuff.
I love that.
Yeah, I respect it.
I love that. I didn't get to tell you. I meant to tell you at lunch today.
That you respect my mom?
That I respect your mom. No, that I get caught up in this thing and I got to stop doing it, is that I see the $5 movies on Apple, the $4.99 movies, and I get points from my card, like an Amex, that are like, you could just spend this at Apple. You could have $50 to Apple. And then I'm like, well, that's 10 movies. Mm-hmm, and then I'm buying, and then I'm watching like While You Were Sleeping.
That's nothing wrong with that.
Fine movie.
Yeah. And
then I'm watching, Love Actually for the 8th time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Today.
While You Were Sleeping, that's about a guy who eats all his wife's cookies while she's
That's right.
asleep, right?
That's right. I
think so.
Merry Christmas. Now, let me tell you what I'm obsessed with. Zach, you didn't ask.
I was literally about to ask.
I know. I saw it in your face.
You jumped the gun. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Edward Dondo, the old British criminal, famous for eating too many oysters. Now, you might be thinking, how can you eat so many oysters that you most of the stories should be like, oh, I ate so many oysters, I died. Mm-hmm. This guy was eating so many oysters that it was illegal. And the reason is he didn't pay for any of it. So actually he's just a thief, but it was this particular kind of thief that he could never be sated. And I relate to that. You've seen me eat. I've seen you get big laughs. I've told this story multiple times.
I've told this story multiple times.
I walked outside of a club. You know how we're always at the club, always getting booked at specific clubs, and you were getting big laughs, and I was like, oh, Zach must be, really chopping it up with these other comedians, and I came over and I realized that you were almost to the end of a list of things you saw me eat on the road in Maryland. So I love that.
Sure.
I needed to try the crab dip at 4 different places to know if it was good.
How does this crab
Which
dip
one is this?
compared to the other crab dip?
When is a better opportunity to compare crab dips than on the same day. Because I
Sure.
remember the last one. And then if you're really full and that last one sucks, you're like, well, what if it was the best one and you're really full and you're like, wow, that was really good. I wasn't even hungry.
It was I would say the like poodle-sized pretzel bowl crab dip that we were eating at that football game. That really got the party.
That was great. And that also reminds me of my favorite story from that trip. When we were at that football game, I saw the funniest thing I've ever seen at a live sporting event, which is that they had an under 12 40-yard dash, and there were 6 kids, and one of them was like 2 feet taller than the other kids. And we all were like, well, maybe there's something,
Sure.
he gets they get a head start, or they get or that kid like doesn't actually understand he's in a race. Maybe there's something going on there.
Maybe it's like a Benjamin Button situation.
Yes,
where he's actually 85 years old.
Yes, so maybe he's really slow. And then they fired the gun, because they love to fire guns near children's ears.
Automatic rifle.
Yeah, they just fired it, and that kid trounced them. I mean, he just absolutely dominated, and I was laughing so hard in the stands, and people were like, "What's wrong with you?" Anyway, I want to bring it back to my obsession, Edward Dondo, who was arrested because he would dine and dash all these oysters and bread. Then he would go to the judge and be like, I won't do it again. And there were some days where he ate, got arrested, went to court. The judge said, what are you doing? And then he told some sob story, and he was like, I swear I will not do it again. I'm sorry. And then he immediately went to a restaurant and ate like 80 oysters until the point of like just being so full. He felt like he was going to die, and then they would just shove him in jail. So one of my favorite people from history, and just a fun little obsession that you could have look up Dondo.
Not all heroes wear capes.
That's right.
As they say.
That's what they say.
They vomit up oysters from eating way too many and not paying for them.
And our guest today is a hero, not just in the video game world, but in life.
Absolutely. And he won't make you vomit unless it's something you're into and you ask him to make you vomit. I feel like he probably would, because he's a nice guy.
He wants
to help.
He wants to do it.
Yes.
He wants what you want.
And he's got maybe a little sick little fetish. But
we didn't talk about his obsession with wanting to see people spew.
But we did talk about his delightful and lifelong obsession with video games, and we hope you will enjoy that right after this. We like to start each one
in my head.
feeling like we've never heard a podcast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or held a mic.
Yeah.
Or spoken to a human before.
I do think I hit my face a little bit with the mic when I said hello. So I'm right there. I've never been on a podcast.
It's jarring.
It is jarring.
It's tough.
I'm talking, but also paying attention. It's weird.
No, it's rare, right? You don't get that these days. Thank you for being here, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about obsessions.
Yes.
I think.
That's our goal.
That's our goal.
I feel-
We've talked about soup. We've talked about soccer. We've talked about a specific hockey matchup.
And some of those episodes probably aired.
Some of them, this might be our first show, actually. I apologize. Thanks, Mike, for being the first guest on our podcast.
The first or last guest, case depending.
That's right.
Could be both. Could be both. But Mike, what are you coming here to?
I am obsessed, and this has been a whole life thing with the video games, the electronic entertainment,
The Nintendos.
the Segas,
Oh, wow.
the PlayStations.
Well, let me ask you. This is just what was your first video game system?
My first video game system was the Nintendo Entertainment System, which
Yeah, sure.
we got for my sister's birthday when she was 7, but like it was kind of like a gift for both of us because her birthday was the end of February, mine's the beginning of March. So it was like, this is for Tiffany, but shut up, you don't get anything.
Did they do that? Did they do that a lot to you?
When we were little kids, if it was something that we both wanted, like it was never like, we're going to buy a gift for Tiffany and pretend it's also for you. It was more like, okay, this thing costs $250. It's both of your gifts.
Absolutely.
Barbie Dream House.
Barbie Dream House. Actually,
House.
I would have loved it. My
both
sister
of you.
wasn't into Barbies. I would have loved a Barbie Dream House because I love
too.
miniatures.
I loved Polly Pocket.
You know?
I loved Polly Pocket so much.
Yeah.
And then they Mad Max.
Mighty Max. Mighty Max.
Mad Max. They gave me a car and gas that I had to siphon from monsters. Mad Max. Anyway, I was so thrilled. I was so thrilled that they had Mighty Max because I was like, I've been waiting for this day.
Yeah.
When it's okay for boys to like tiny, cute things. Anyway,
I had a little doll face. There was like
You still got a doll face, baby.
Oh, thank you.
Come on.
There was. See, you were worried, Dan. there was like a thing in like preschool or something where there was some sort of like you filled out, you did a little activity, and then you could pick a gift.
Yeah.
And I picked a doll of some sort, and they said, no, you don't want that doll.
Ugh.
You want.
We were all stifled.
What if there's like a bomb in it that they were trying to send to a family? They're like, no, you don't want that one.
The people with bad ideas.
So that was your first system. What was the first system?
Nintendo Entertainment System. So they're like the old NES with the original Mario Brothers,
Yes.
that sort of thing.
We had that. I remember. My brother. I like video. We'll get into this. I like video games, but my brother was much more so.
Yeah.
And I think the Super Nintendo. We had a Super Nintendo and a Sega, which, considering my awful childhood, is like that's a real cherry on top.
Yeah,
You don't expect
that's
that,
not bad,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Now I gotta. I'm gonna posit something, and you can tell me agree or disagree.
Okay.
We're about the same age.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And I was born in '86.
Okay.
My brother a little older. The Nintendo Entertainment System really is the first home entertainment system besides Atari, which I think doesn't count. Like when old people are like, actually, I know about home entertainment systems, but I don't think there was anything as big as the NES.
Yes,
as far as
that's true.
Everyone was just like, you go to an arcade if you want to play games, or you're a big nerd who had an Atari, and my only point here is that I feel like we grew up with home video game systems.
Yes.
Am I correct in this?
Yeah. I think you're absolutely correct. And there was a bit of a gap between the popularity of Atari and NES coming out. Like, Atari had started to decline to the point where people are like, there's a phase. Kids don't like it anymore.
Right. It's done. So it's video games and terrorism. That's what we got.
That's what we got from the Reagan era.
Yeah. Wasn't that great? I was just thinking about it, that it is like such a major part of people's lives if you are exactly our age. And then for everyone else, they read that book tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and that's their only experience of video games. And isn't that sad for the 70-year-old women? My mom. I'm just talking about my mom now.
Did your mom like that book?
Yeah.
You should send her my book.
I'm going to send her your book.
Send her my book.
She knows. And let's talk about your book.
Oh, yeah. I shoehorned that in. I shoehorned that right the fuck in.
This is a show about obsessions, and you cannot write a book unless you're obsessed with your subject or obsessed with writing. Those books suck when you're just obsessed with writing.
God,
oh my god.
No, thank you.
If on a winter's night a traveler, Italo Calvino, get out of here. No one knows what I'm talking about. Listen, everybody, you understand what I'm saying. We don't want a Pomo book. We want a book about a subject we love.
Yeah.
And that's postmodern. I'm sorry.
Okay.
An old joke that was like, no Pomo.
You're
That's Bard.
What was the... How often did that work? Give me a percentage.
I was at Bard College, so it worked every time because everyone was high and they forgot the punchline.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So anyway, you have a book about video games, which I have now established is a major part of our lives, like it or not.
Yeah.
What is the book about?
So the book is called Good Game, No Rematch, and it's basically a series of comedy essays about me humiliating myself throughout my life with games. Nice. So it's kind of like, it is positive in the sense that I'm like, look at how much fun I had and how it helped me get jobs and how it helped my career and I got a job at Nintendo, but it's also like, I got shot in the nuts by a paintball gun at Nintendo. So like I sort of go back and forth in it, but it's I don't know. It's kind of like this nice comedy book. It sort of came from wanting to do a one-man show about games and it just not coming together in any way. Like I was like, I didn't want it to just be 45 minutes because then it becomes like, remember this? Will you remember this? Who remembers this? I bet you remember this. And I wanted to go deeper than that. Sure. And so it went into book form.
I think you shouldn't have gone deeper than that. I mean, you'd be making a lot more money.
Yeah, there's a lot more money in Remember This.
Yeah, just remember this.
I remember Knuckles.
Yeah. You guys remember this?
Remember Sonic the Hedgehog? You guys remember Dr. Robotnik? What about Sub-Zero? Like, I feel like that's what it would have become so fast.
Now, a side note, I just want to say you do run a live show.
About video games,
called Shit Arcade.
Yeah.
And I've done it a couple times. And it's just like in this room now where we're talking over each other, except it's very funny.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mostly because of how you book it, because you book me all the time, and we're very funny.
I think that's good. Yeah.
And we have a great rapport, as you can tell. But you pick games, instead of doing, hey, remember this, you pick obscure games that people should know about, but are insane. And so the last time I did it, we played Oliver Stone's Platoon,
Yeah.
the video game.
Yeah, there was a Platoon video game for the NES, and it's not that good. I hate to let you know. The movie probably you would get more out of it about Vietnam.
Okay.
But what I got out of it, and I think we all said this at the show, is that it was not user friendly.
No.
And so in that way, it did feel like you were just thrown into the jungle, much like much like our parents' generation. Just thrown in there, and I was drunk. So it was just like being in Vietnam. That was my Vietnam, is what I'll say.
You developed a heroin addiction.
I remember like that Ken Burns documentary where they said it was not user friendly.
Well, I love that you did find a way to do a live show, and still, even as it's nostalgic, you're not just playing, because it would be great to watch a bunch of people, rip it at Mario, but it's way more fun to watch, somebody fail at the Garfield game.
Yeah, and like, I grew up loving Mystery Science Theater 3000 and shows like that. And so, for me, like, as a kid, it was always more fun to find like old bad movies and be like, they're making fun of some crazy thing from the 50s than it was to like watch just The Maltese Falcon for the 9th time. And so I think I got like obsessed with bad things. Are you guys big Maltese Falcon fans?
No, it's just that's Zach and I talk about.
We mostly talk about the Falcon.
Oh, no.
Talking about the Falcon.
Oh, no. I chose the wrong movie.
No. We just talk about old movies that no one's seen.
What about Marty? Can we go with Marty?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Ernest Borgnine?
Yeah.
What a sweet film. Oh my God, he just wants to meet a lady.
Oh man, I chose the wrong film again.
Gone with the Wind.
Thank you.
There you go.
I think we can. I think we can let.
Video
Yeah.
game. Now, what was an early video game, Mike, that you got obsessed with? What was an early video game obsession in your life?
Like the first obsession I had was, rather than Super Mario, it was Duck Hunt on the NES.
Of course.
And I think the reason was, I was 3 years old. So, with Mario, it looked complicated to me. My sister and my dad were playing it, and I was like, this looks like a lot of work. And Duck Hunt, I could understand killing things with the gun.
Sure.
Because I was a child of the 80s.
Yeah.
And so, like, you have this plastic gun, you're firing at the screen. Mm-hmm. And over time, I realized that the closer I got, including to the point of just pressing the gun up to the actual physical screen, I was amazing at it. And, when you're 3 years old, you don't realize this is cheating or taking the challenge out for you. You're just like, wow, I'm really good at this. I have figured it out. I figured out how to win at Duck Hunt. And so for like a week or two, like I was like so obsessed with it. And I would just get perfect score after perfect score after perfect score, again, because I was holding the gun to the screen. But that was like the first time I think I really became just like playing a game for hours straight.
Do we know how the technology of Duck Hunt works? How does the gun
light?
The thing is, I have the vaguest understanding of how it works, which means I will get it completely wrong. But I think the screen, when you hit the button on the controller, it does a flash, if you remember, and then the gun reads the flash and the location of the flash on the screen.
Oh my!
But I'm probably explaining that completely wrong.
I like it either way. We had a game. My brother played a game, and I don't remember what it's called. Nor do I remember what happens in it. But I think that it was a VHS tape.
Yeah.
That you would play, and you had a little gun thing. I know you don't, but how did that work?
I don't have no
that. I have no idea. That I don't know.
But maybe
you just made me think of an obsession that I had, which was playing the game Nightmare.
I remember Nightmare.
You put in a VHS.
Oh man, Nightmare.
Nightmare was a game that only lasted like an hour and 25 minutes exactly because there was a gatekeeper, that's his name, you had to call him gatekeeper, who would interrupt the game as you played it, and he'd be like, stop, you maggot. And he'd be like, oh. And so we would just end up like talking back to the guy, and that was
It was
fun.
actually like a super fun game.
It was a great game, and it scared me all the time.
Yeah.
And I would forget to call him gatekeeper, and he'd be like, what did you say? And you'd be like, it would get you. It would get you when you were. I was 35 at the time. Sure. Well, I was a child.
Yeah. I have a very vivid memory of a regular Nintendo. I think when we got the upgrade to the Super, we gave the regular to our neighbor. I think her name might have been Kate, and she had the Ghostbusters game.
Oh yeah,
which apparently was very hard.
Yes.
And I remember my parents waking my brother up at what I imagine was about 2 a.m. to give our neighbor tips on how to handle like the stair level of the Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a cool neighborly relationship to be like, hey, son, wake up. They're kind of stuck in the game.
Isn't that weird? That's how you found out about warp whistles was just having a friend.
Yeah.
The guy who sold me weed later
Mm-hmm.
taught me where all the warp whistles were. So he introduced me to.
Were you
he introduced me to
35
lot
or a
of stuff.
kid then?
I was also. Yeah, no, he was a kid. He would just have a kid who like. He wasn't a rich kid, so he wasn't like calling the Nintendo Power Hotline. He just had the information from word of mouth. Like, oh, it's this, and you duck under this, or you go in the first castle, you go above the.
Yeah.
In Mario 3, I'm thinking.
No, yeah. And
It's very specific.
What's crazy is if you remember back then, they also had like VHS tapes that had tips and tricks. So like it would be like 10 games and you would just be fast forwarding being like, I don't fucking care. I want to find out Castlevania 2. Like, and it's so weird. Like just to own VHS tapes that are like tips and tricks to like be like, well, let me see how to beat this. And you pull it down, have to wait like 30 minutes.
I very rarely will play anything that isn't a sports game. But if I play something more complicated, I have to look up the walkthroughs or whatever because I don't like to feel dumb.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And a lot of these games play me for the fool.
Yeah.
Which I don't appreciate. So
You shouldn't
I
be
give
one.
up very quickly unless I look up, how to get to the whatever.
I mean, my brother, I still play sports games, but only because my brother plays them. So it's like something that we can
That's nice.
play together.
Yeah, sure.
Like my brother's more like you where he like, he'll play other games occasionally, but for him, it's like the biggest deal was that when EA brought back the college football game.
Yeah.
And so like I'll buy, the new NHL when it comes out and we'll play it together, but I get fucking massacred every time.
Sure. No, of course. I have that game as well. It was a big deal. I talked about this before, but I like to go sometimes on the subreddits for some of these games.
Yeah.
Because it's just people are just so angry most of the time. It's a lot of like, you never even played point guard before. You don't know how the game works. And all these fools. But people were so excited for that college football game that there was a post where a guy was like, my buddy and I used to play this game every day, and he died in Iraq. And his favorite college was Miami. So I'm going to play as Miami, and I'm going to take a knee on the first play in honor of my dead friend. So does anybody else want to tell me what their favorite team was?
Ooh.
And then I will also take ceremonial knees in honor of...
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very sweet sentiment.
Sweet.
It is nice.
It's weird to ask other people to pitch things for it.
Sure.
Tell me what's your saddest memory, and I'll incorporate it. I'm only incorporating it into non-sports games.
I do feel like
just Final Fantasy. I'll name Cloud whatever your brother's name was in Iraq. Go ahead.
sports games to me can be almost more isolating because you're not a part of the video game community. You know what I mean? So it's like it's like a subset of a subset, so you can't even connect with the people like Final Fantasy or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's very
But you could bridge that gap. You could play a Final Fantasy. There's,
I can't do it.
What about Mega Man Soccer? There was a Mega Man Soccer game on Super Nintendo.
yeah.
Maybe that'll cross the divide for you.
I did play Mega Man.
So, okay, and you know of soccer.
I'm sure I've heard of it. I mean, I'm a patriot, so you know how I feel about that. But, still, as long as he's not European or whatever.
Well, while we're on the subject, I want to think of I got a specific question now, just that came to me. What is the hardest game that you've played? Do you have that in your head? Because
fucking
Mega
game of
Man's-
life, man. Fucking just being a man in this world right now is the hardest thing. No, the hardest game I've ever played. That's a tough question because I'm somebody who as an adult, if I get frustrated with the game, I'll just be like, well, fuck this. I don't think I like it.
Well, yeah, with emulators now, I'll play until I die, and I'm like, I'm gonna try a different game. But I was thinking specifically of Mega Man and needing to Google Mega Man boss order.
Yeah.
Because you have to do it in a specific way.
I think I mentioned Castlevania too, but really that game because some of the things are translated kind of wrong. So even it's kind of built itself to be impossible without looking up references on how to find the body parts of Dracula. But the other thing is some of it's translated very weird. Yeah. So some of the clues aren't clues at all because you're that doesn't mean anything to the game.
Right.
And so I would say that at least is the first time I remember playing a video game and even getting that VHS tape and finding tips for it being I don't think I can beat this game. Mm-hmm. And here I am now. Just
you never did.
Yeah.
You never did it?
I never beat Castlevania 2. Yeah, that's right.
It's Nosferatu is in another cable What is just like mispronounced? Like,
It's kind of like, yeah, if like you replaced like one word for the other. I forget what it was, but it was some like weird construction that kind of hinted that something was there that wasn't.
yeah. Well, that's how I feel reading Dracula.
Yeah.
Because it's it's like news reports and all the and
Sure.
just walking
Real
through
estate
and-
law.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm so tired. Is what I say. If only there was some Dracula video game that was less confusing, and then that was too hard.
But Castlevania is famously
It's famously hard.
right?
Yeah.
It's famously hard just as itself, but with 2, they added an exploration element, which is really cool, except when you have no idea what you're doing or where you're going, and even the people talking to you are giving you bad information, it becomes less fun to explore.
Okay, fair enough. Just like life, really.
Just like life. When people give you bad information, life's not great.
Absolutely.
Now, aside from this stellar friendship that the three of us have,
Yeah.
has video games helped you connect with other people?
Sure.
Or has it made you sadder and scared?
I mean, I think I'm naturally sad and scared, so I don't think I needed like a boost on that.
Sorry.
Felt like a leading question.
I think for a lot of people who maybe aren't into video games,
Yeah,
they
no,
think
no,
of
no.
you being in your basement, and right now we're all connected.
Right.
That we all had very similar
Yeah.
And we're above
situations.
ground.
Did video games?
We're in the light.
Yeah. Did video games improve my life, or are they the reason that I might have no career soon?
Sure. That's definitely not the. We're all just gonna not have a career. You should have a hobby. You should just have a hobby for sure.
I think it actually like made my life better, and it helped me meet people. Like even as a kid, I'm shy now and I'm awkward now, but as a kid I was 1,000 times more shy and awkward. And video games really gave me like the first common language I had with other kids. Like, you talk about Saturday morning cartoons and stuff, but this was like the first like, yo, did you find this yet? Kind of that sort of conversation. And because I wasn't really into sports as a kid either, I didn't have that element. Mm-hmm. And so video games were really the first time like I'd be like, you want to come over to my house and do something? And I had like something that they could do with me. Mm-hmm. Like,
Sure.
because I didn't know, like, even as a kid, I was like, do I invite a kid over and we push action figures together? Like, what do we do? And so, and
Sounded
then,
like you were trying to figure something else.
do we make them kiss?
Wouldn't that be so weird?
But like, and then throughout, like when I went to college, Animal Crossing was just out on the GameCube, so that was like a great way to like, connect with my roommates. And when I applied for back then Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, I knew that he was into video games, so I definitely led that job interview with video games because I knew like that could be a connection we have outside of me asking you for money.
Now, I had an second interview with the head editor of a website, a humor site. They loved my work. They said, we would send this out right now, these 3 articles. You are so good. Let's have one more meeting. And the last meeting was we just talked about Ghosts of Tsushima and Elden Ring.
Yeah.
And we talked for 40 minutes about games, and I left being like, well, I mean, obviously I've never had a better experience. And then they never called. And I feel that's the closest. I've been married for a while, so that's the closest I've ever felt to getting ghosted by someone I have like a true connection with. So if you're listening, fuck you.
I wonder what you could have done to save that interview. Like, I wonder if there's like, if you like had a weird build in Elden Ring, they were like, if he's doing it that way, we don't want him.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I did think about that because I was like, maybe it's just maybe I just said magic too much. I should have been a melee guy. So has there been a game? I just thought of this question now.
Great.
You can chime in whenever. You can chime in whenever,
awesome.
Zach. I'm sorry. Was there ever a game that you got too obsessed with?
I think,
where
definitely
it did ruin your career.
I think I've definitely like had obsessions where like it screwed up like a week or a deadline or something. Mm-hmm. I've never been someone who's like been into like, like a World of Warcraft where I spend years playing it. Mm-hmm. Like I've been playing Civilization for years, but it's not the same thing as like, all right, 8 o'clock, time for me to do my nightly Civilization.
Right.
I will say when those games come out, I will like lose a week to them.
Yeah, but Civilization is informative.
Yes, it's educational. You learn things.
Are you building? I don't even know. I know what it is, but I don't know what happens.
You start in the Stone Age, and you over time like build up a civilization. But there's other countries, and you research new technologies. You build wonders like the pyramids or the Statue of Liberty.
Ooh. You learn the wide breadth of bureaucry, which I think is very important.
Sure.
Is that you learn about, you're like, you need some stonemasonry and some we need to get cows and livestock. And then eventually you're like, we really need like bankers to figure out where to...
And like you got to build up culture and like So like you can win by having the best culture. You can win by having a certain amount of money. You can win by
Space race.
Space race. You can win by conquering every other country or a set amount of countries depending on the version.
Now I tried to do
Comedy
that.
club in there?
You're building a roller coaster tycoon, but it's a shitty comedy club.
No, but in Civ 6, each country had their own little specific building they could have, and Canada had a hockey rink.
Oh, good for them. They love it.
I love hockey.
Canada was my favorite country to play in Civ 6 because they were a country that you could not declare war on for no reason. Like you had to have like a reason to declare war on them.
Yeah, you got to drop.
Like
it's
now.
It's like Gandhi
Yeah.
in the older games. Where, and there was a trick where if you were too nice to Gandhi, it went backwards. Like if you kept giving him stuff, he went from like 000 to like negative 99 opinion of you, and you'd get nuked.
I think that's like what happens with a woman. Like if you're like too like if you're like
That's what
you're like I bought you an iPad. I love working with you, and you're like oh
I paid off your student loans.
I mean
I know we don't know each other.
You want to like, get a hamburger or something? Like it's not a date. It's not a date. It's not a date.
Oh, God, I hope it's not a date. I definitely, it's one of the things I like about a sports game is that it's hard to spend too much time.
Yeah.
My lady loves video games. Now, she also, I think this is what happens when you're satisfied with your career.
Yeah.
Is she'll play like 4 or 5 hours and feel perfectly fine about herself.
Yeah.
Where if I do that, then I'm in the corner, calling my therapist and punching myself in the dick.
See,
or whatever.
the thing is, I'm stuck between the two because I want to play for 4 hours, but after like 1 or 2, I'm like, man, this is why your career's not further along, man. Like if you only like you spend these couple hours, if you just write more stand-up jokes, I mean, you'd be John Mulaney right now, and I'm like, that's not true.
Sure. But maybe Joe Rogan.
Oh, I could be the Joe Rogan of even dumber people.
Also worry about getting too ambitious and being into video games because then you might become like a nerd rapper.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta keep them separate, and I feel like you have a very. I know you.
I escaped that line very carefully. Yeah,
that you're clearly a sexual dynamo.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
and smooth.
It's a huge diamond in the rough.
But that it's like I think of you as being. When I talk to you, I assume you have other hobbies. Do you have other hobbies besides gaming and what else are you doing? Building birdhouses?
This sounds like a bit, but I am into marine biology.
That's right.
Like I like ichthyology. I also enjoy non-fish underwater creatures such as jellyfish, such as
Rocks.
Rocks aren't animals. You asked me a question. Now you won't even take it serious. So, but like, no, like I'll like anytime I'm going to a like visiting a town for whatever reason, I'll try to hit the aquarium if they have one.
Nice.
Like,
nice.
And I don't like fishing.
This is great. I love this. I love that Mike's out there going to the aquarium.
Listen, they're fun. They're comforting. There's usually like calming music
Better
playing.
than a zoo. Better than a zoo.
It doesn't smell as bad as a zoo, and you can see cool animals still.
Sure, and they might fuck. There's still a chance they'll fuck.
They might fuck. I don't know if I know when a fish is fucking.
Oh, I know. I'll show you some videos. I
have a VHS tutorial about fish fuck.
You gotta fast forward. You gotta fast forward for a while.
Yeah.
It'll get there. Do you have an aquarium at home, Mike? Mike, do you have an aquarium at home?
I do not have an aquarium at home. That is just because it is hard in a New York City apartment to really like... Because if I had an aquarium, I'd want to do it right. Like, I don't want to have one just to have one. Sure. And I have... Throughout my life, I've had more than one friend who's had one and clearly, like, stopped caring, has stopped taking care of it, and it looked kind of sad or like... And I would rather go to an aquarium where they're trained and they're taking care of things very well, or go, snorkeling in the Keys and see things in their natural habitat, than me kill a fish trying to have something to watch.
Sure, that's fair. I get that. That's why I haven't a kid. It's the same reason.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, me too. Yeah. That's like, if I had a kid, that kid would be dead already.
Oh, yeah.
And not by my hand, but by my accident.
The emotional distance I give to our cats is probably a good reason that I like the other day I just told my girlfriend, I was like, when I came home and one of our cats was waiting for me, I tried to make a point to say hello and acknowledge it, and I realized if it takes that much for me to acknowledge the cat, probably for a child I wouldn't. No,
you don't want that.
I just had a vision of you 10 years from now knocking your kid out of the way to show them how to beat a game. No, Mike.
In 10 years when I'm
like
50 and I have a kid.
Just being like, well, I'm just saying. No, when they're old enough to play video games, I meant. I'm imagining you seeding the child now. That's what I've been imagining this whole time.
Child.
So at this point, you imagine the child is gestating.
Yeah.
The baby is.
Maybe
it's
tonight.
not legally up for abortion. That's where the baby is.
Yeah.
In my brain. And I just pictured. I just had that image. That's all I'm saying. Is that Mike
sure.
being like, I got to show you my favorite game. Or our friend Brian McGinnis, his kids got into vintage games, and he said it was like so rewarding because he got to watch them like figure out that Mega Man was too hard, and that Mario is actually fun, and it doesn't all have to be, this glitz and glamour of Batman.
But like knowing my kid, it's going to be like, I want to go camping, Dad. And I'll be like, oh, come on. I want to play football. And I'll be like, you can play football. I don't care. I'm not watching you.
You're like, oh, I'm watching. And you got to switch to.
I feel like I would treat my kid with the same attitude I treated my dad as a kid, being like, I hate football. It's boring.
All right. So I want to go back.
Yes, please.
And ask you, because this is another personal one. We were a family that had NES that was just given to us because that was the one. And then our family, and this is a real nostalgia, remember this, but Sega, otherwise known as Service Games.
That's right.
American company.
That's what it stands for.
They made games for the military.
Yep.
Oh,
and they made like foosball and stuff. And then they moved from tabletop to just a fun little lesson.
That is a fun fact.
I've read books. And books about video games, and I'm going to read Mike's book.
I don't think you needed to say that last part, but it's still a good,
Well, Service Games, they bring out the Sega, which has Sonic, which was, we're going to put out a game that rivals Mario just by the simple fact that it's cooler, and it's faster, and it looks like you're smoking a cigarette. The closest a kid could get to smoking a cigarette without actually doing it. And it worked.
Yeah.
They made like a cool kid attitude-filled little monster, and my brother and I fell for it, and we bought a Sega Genesis, and then I was always jealous of... My parents were like, well, we're not getting it. Like, even if you went out and got a job, you're not getting a Super Nintendo also.
Yeah.
Like, we're just not having both in the house. So I'd have to go to my friend's house to play Super Mario World, which was the superior game.
Yeah, it was.
And everything about that system was superior, and I didn't get one until like after college, and that sort of ruined my life. But
wow.
I was just thinking, did your house have a similar rule? Did you ever switch from Nintendo? Did you stick with Nintendo? Did you have a Sega?
We had a Sega. I got a Super Nintendo for, I believe, a Christmas one year. And then 1 or 2 years later, I wanted a Sega for whatever reason. And my parents were like, okay, well, your birthday's coming up. We were planning to have this party for you, but if you want us to cancel it, we could get you that Genesis. And I was like, cancel. Like, I could, even then, I knew that what they were saying was, we do not want to buy this. Right. But we will give you a Sophie's choice, and we know which way you're going to go on this. Every kid wants a birthday party.
Sure.
And I like slammed that button. So it was like deal or no deal. And I was like, deal, I'll take the case. And so I got a Genesis.
And they thought you wanted the party?
They thought I wanted the party because it was like, but all your friends are coming.
My friends will come if we get a Sega.
Well, and they were also like,
they'll be there.
Like, I think, but again, in their heads, it's like, well, this is a fun thing. You get to have a party, and all these kids bring toys, and they're your friends. Like, they had not clocked yet that I was meant to die alone.
Yeah, they didn't know their son.
Yeah, they did not know their son. No, they've read this book, and I don't think they know their son.
That is what drives many people to video games.
And comedy. Yeah, comedy and video games.
Absolutely. Yeah, put them together. Now, are you strict? I know you were talking earlier, you're a Steam guy, but are you a Nintendo guy generally, or where you're?
I think like Nintendo's my first love as far as they go, but like I own everything now. I own like an Xbox, a PlayStation, like a gaming PC.
But now, and
a Steam Deck,
and
I don't. You're leading the witness.
If you follow Mike on Instagram, you can see some beautiful like stand-up arcade.
Oh, little arcade machines. Yeah, I collect little arcade machines.
And every time I see one, I'm like, I just think my thumbs are too fat, but I'm so enamored.
They're so
that
great.
You're having a good time.
I love them.
I'm so glad that Mike got this much serotonin when he
Yeah.
opened up this little stand-up.
Tell me what this is.
Donkey
What is
Kong
So-
Jr. or whatever.
So they make there's a company called I think like New Wave Toys, something like that, but they make these 12-inch tall replicas of old arcade machines that work.
Oh, wow.
But the cool thing about it is like the paneling's wood, like it's not cheap plastic or anything. It's like they really put a lot of effort into it. Like it'll even come with you can just turn it on and play it, but they also come with like tiny little tokens that you can put into play.
My God.
Oh, wow.
My God.
It's
is it
so
easy
cool.
to play or is it difficult?
Most of them are pretty easy to play because they're like old arcade games, so there's usually just like the stick and a button. I'm sure some of them are harder to play depending, but I've played a lot of like the Street Fighter one's probably the most complicated in terms of button layout, and that's not too bad.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Are
Street
you
Fighter
doing-
was fun.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
And you're doing emulators?
Doing emulators, doing everything, man. You want it, I got it.
Now, Dan one time had an emulator, and I don't remember the name of this game,
Okay.
but Dan had something that I can only call...
No, don't.
Can we not talk
We're
about
not
this?
saying this on the pod.
Well,
ahead.
I'll just say you can edit it out.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Dan had some sort of fuck video game where it was just a man pleasuring himself.
Yeah, and you had to tap them back and forth.
Yeah.
It was actually it's much worse than you remember. And it was because when I went to, my friend had downloaded a bunch of illegal emulators. Don't have them anymore if you're listening.
We're not.
Because I think it's like you get like fined $5,000 a file or something. It's not true. I mean, it won't happen. But I still have all the old emulator files, and I would just dump them from computer to computer and just keep carrying them, so I never had to download them illegally from anywhere else because we had this little drive. And a lot of them were like Leo's porn. And like you'd click it and it was just a bunch of naked women and you like hit the right button and then it would go through them. And I was like, oh, right. Because like this is what Osama bin Laden had in the bunker, or in the apartment building. And so yes, there was a game that was
I just
like
remember,
you can fuck. There's a game that legitimately came out for Atari that, again, this is a Brian McGinnis find.
Yeah.
I want to give credit where credit's due, called Beat 'em and Eat 'em. And it was a game where a bunch of people are beating off on the rooftop of a building. Sorry, Mom. And she would love this game. And then you're trying to catch it on the bot, like all this stuff. And you know the stuff.
What stuff? What stuff for your mom in case she doesn't know?
Just okay. Imagine a fish.
Oh, I like fish. I like fish.
Don't fuck directly. They
Right.
the eggs in one batch, and then the man fish. You know how there's a man
Sure.
fish.
One fish, two fish, red fish, man fish.
And he does that on the eggs. That's what Beat 'em and Eat 'em is like.
Okay.
So there are games that were legit. The one you're thinking of was like clearly like some kid made it, and it was fucking disturbing.
Sure. My
Someone's
mom
like choking him.
My mom. My mom will still play like these computer games where you're just like a waitress. And it's just like, there's a lot of eggs at the counter today, and we got to serve them up so fast. It's hard for me to understand.
Like
why
Diner
that's
Dash,
fun. Yeah, I guess it's Diner Dash, yeah.
I'm just having the memory of when I showed you the game you're talking about, and this is the last thing I'll say, where I showed it to
let's
you
make
and
sure we
Gabe
go back to
Pacheco because we were on the road, and I was like, you want to see the funniest thing?
Yeah.
These kids, I've had this since I was 16 years old. This is
We were both disturbed.
You were both horrified. You were like, I can't, like, you just walked away.
Well, I just remember we had like 3 hours to kill before a show, and Dan was like, well, perfect, this will fill the time, and we'll just watch this digital lady get railed. And much like when you watch porn, it doesn't last as long as you think it will. Suddenly your interest fades. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I forgot that we were all jerking off.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm glad we took this detour.
Yeah. Stays in the podcast.
Sure.
Stays.
I remember there was this Nintendo game I really enjoyed called Caveman Games.
Okay.
Do you have any? That's all I have.
It's very familiar.
It was basically you would play like it would be like a pole vault, but
Okay, it was like Olympics. Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Not Joe and
Paperboy,
Mac,
of course.
which
What's
is
Joe and Mac? Is
Joe and Mac were the cavemen.
Cavemen.
That was on a Super Nintendo.
It's like a
game. I was
platformer.
I really loved it.
I thought that was another one of your smut.
No, not this time. Not this time.
Caveman games. Hiding in the cave.
The only bone they got is dinosaur.
Come on. Oh, so that was like it was more like a skill thing where you
I guess so.
jump
Yeah,
over.
it was just my favorite as a little boy. I love that, and this is not a game, but I loved a late '80s romantic comedy with Sally Field and James Gardner called Murphy's Romance.
Sure.
Okay.
That I watched apparently over and over when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
Murphy's Romance.
I had a Hulk Hogan as an alien, and Christopher Lloyd was in it, and I'd watch it nonstop.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like,
What is this?
I'm gonna tear out your face. It was great. It was like that was my impression of Hulk Hogan.
I never saw that movie, but there was a preview for it on my VHS.
What
for
movie
Ninja
is
Turtles.
this?
I have no idea. I was just trying to think of that was gonna be my next question.
Okay.
Do you have another VHS tape that you're like, I can't believe I was obsessed with that? Now that we're going down this nostalgia alley.
I mean, I had a tape that was there were these like dinosaur specials by Gary Owens and this other guy, and they like I found them on DVD on eBay for $100, so I bought it, of course. And they're like these half-hour TV specials about dinosaurs, and it's that thing. Remember in like the 80s and 90s when like half of anything would use old stock footage in black and white? Like it was just they were like, this is free, we'll put it in this public domain shit.
Yeah.
It had I would say 10% information about dinosaurs and 90% little claymation sequences and a child talking about why they like dinosaurs. But I was obsessed with it. I would play it again. There was 2 of them, and I would like literally loop them. I would like play it again and again and again to the point where my parents might have actually taken away the tape.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I think they were just like, stop it.
Sure. We would like to watch something at some point.
I mean, I think that was more it. Like we are going to, put on.
Designing Women. Is on.
Yeah.
That's what I was watching. That was a good video game.
Yeah.
Designing Women.
Absolutely. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, something like that.
That was a fun time. Now, Mike, let me ask you this. I don't know if this makes so much sense for what we're talking about.
Sure,
but
sure.
Here we are. If, let's say, what would be a gateway, or maybe for you, but what would be a gateway for somebody who's like, what are these video games I'm learning about now?
I would say I would recommend Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which is a game that's available on everything.
Okay.
So it's very easy to access, whether it's your phone, whether it's a Nintendo, any of the consoles, PC. And you basically play this cartoon lawyer who's defending these like wackadoo clients.
Objection.
Objection!
You get to do that.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
but it's very cartoony and over the top and fun, and like the cases are actually interesting because like you actually do have to crack the case, but everything's very fun and goofy, and there's a ton of them. So I'd say that. There's another game that's a little more recent called Overboard, and it is very good. Again, you don't need any reflexes. Both of these games, I should say, you could play with a mouse. Like you don't need to, a lot of people when they try games, they struggle with the fact that you're expected to move in 3 dimensions using like 16 buttons. Mm-hmm. This is not that. Overboard, you play this woman who just killed her husband on a cruise ship, and you basically have to prove to everybody that you did not do it.
But you did do it?
You did do it. Like the game starts with you doing it, and then like
I like
and
this.
it kind of works on a time it kind of works on a time loop like Groundhog Day, in that like you talk to people and someone's like, "Oh, I noticed your earring on deck. Did you drop it last night?" Then you're like, "All right, next time when I wake up, go to the deck, grab my earring, go here, get this," and you kind of like figure out what you need to do.
Yeah.
But there's different endings. Like there's like endings where you convince them you didn't do it, but you go to like jail for a different thing, or like, or you do convince them you do it, or you frame his mistress for doing it.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. This sounds like I played Life of Stanley. Is that what the new
Stanley Parable?
Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
Where they also there's a lot of in-game.
Yeah.
That's like a what do you call it? Grad school level video game. You have to play a lot of video games to get that it's joking about video games.
It's like very meta.
Very meta, and I just wanted to bring this to a screeching halt. But I was going to ask, like, do you like comedy in video games? Because you did. That's the thing. We sort of buried the lead here. Is that you wrote for Nintendo?
I wrote for Nintendo. Yeah, I do like comedy in video games.
Yeah. And so, did you get the chance to add stuff?
Yeah, I got to name a Legend of Zelda character, which was cool, and then I worked on
you named it Mike Drucker.
I named him Mike Drucker, and he's the bravest boy. So that's his official job, is brave boy. Yeah. I was one of the main writers on a game called Kid Icarus Uprising for the Nintendo 3DS, which is a very joke-heavy game. So I got to write a lot of jokes for that because the director of it, this guy Masahiro Sakurai, who's more famous for Smash Brothers, he wanted it to be a funny game, but at the very beginning when we were talking about it and having meetings and emails, he was like, I want this to be funny in every language. So I don't just want this to be like, because in some role-playing games, you want to stick close to the script. You want to make sure you're really hitting it. And some, you want to make sure it makes sense for the whole audience. and idioms have to be translated and jokes have to be translated. Like, just turns of phrase that we have don't work when you do it one-to-one. And so, especially with jokes. So he gave us a lot of freedom to rewrite stuff. Like, he would tell us what specific emotion we're trying to evoke, or like whether a character's being sarcastic, or, you know, what we're leading into. But there was a ton of freedom to write jokes, and it was super, super fun to do.
Now, I find this fascinating.
Yeah.
So, like, when you're writing, I never considered this. You're writing for a video game. Are they giving you, like, what the scene is about or whatever, and then you're writing the dialogue, or are you punching it up, or how does that work?
It depends on the game. And for this one, we were localizing it / translating it as it was being made. So we had the advantage of that. Like, we could email them and ask questions. They would send us, like, new pages of the script, or changes to the script, you know, because they would change a level, and that would change the way a level flows, which means we have to change the way the characters talk as they're going through it. So usually they'd send us, like, it's this weird, Nintendo had this, like, almost kind of like proprietary spreadsheet type system for these lines, because writing for games is weird in that, like, you're kind of writing under the assumption that different things will happen, so you kind of have to address them. So it's harder than just doing a final draft of a linear script. Anyway, they would send us new lines or new pages every day, and we'd work on them. And, you know, they would have notes sometimes, or like they'd have a question, or, you know, we'd have a meeting with them where they would talk about a new direction something was going in. And so it was super, super, super collaborative, which was also nice because it didn't feel like we were, like, taking someone's artistic vision and just running with it on our own. It felt like we were actually, like, working with them to make it make sense. And then we would pass the script to the North American French and the Latin American Spanish translators, and then they would pass it off to Europe.
Well, now similarly, in the least creative way, I have been sent out on a lot of auditions, and I think I can talk about it because I definitely didn't get them, for games from other countries that have been translated, but because they've done all the animation, because they're not going to, like, port anything extra in, you got no leeway as far as time is concerned, to re-record the voice in English. So they just said, please mimic this voice. And then they had clearly just put it in, like, Google Translate.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you shall perish.
There's tiers of quality. I was lucky to work for
I'm
a
on
good,
the bottom.
You know,
I'm on the bottom. And you're on the top.
You're trying to climb up.
I'm trying to climb up as a voice actor, and it's been what a dream. I would love to be in a, because I grew up. As soon as PlayStation came around, there was actual good voice acting.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it got really exciting. But yes, I feel like we've never talked about your time at Nintendo, and we've been friends forever.
We've been friends forever, yeah.
Because I assumed it was a dark time.
No, it was great. It was one of the best times of my life. I also got divorced during that time.
Wow, that was also great, of course.
You know, I mean, like, that was...
Because you were married to the biz.
I was married to the biz more than I was married to my wife. God, that's actually not too inaccurate.
I didn't mean to do that. I just thought it's funny. It's like, you do have legitimacy to be like, excuse me, I need your support. Because I'm writing Kid Icarus.
No.
Ma'am.
We were too young, and I should have been better about it. But
you did refer to your wife by ma'am, though, right?
Yeah. I was like, excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
I'm just saying, it's like,
may I
it's
enter,
like,
ma'am?
Could you, ma'am, sign this?
There have been many divorces, because someone was going to set at The Godfather, and somebody was going to, right? Isn't that what happened? The guy who produced The Godfather broke up with his wife, who was on Love Story. It's not important because he could never fly out there. He was just so busy, except that it's Mike being like, I can't fly back right now. I got to work on this joke. We're kidding. Falls off the ledge. Anyway.
Awooga.
Mm-hmm. No, but, you know, you know what? I will say this, that when I got divorced, my, like, localization group at Nintendo, not, like, the company, so I want to be clear, like, the people, but they bought me a rice maker, and they had a note on it that said, when you get married, throw rice. When you get divorced, throw a rice maker. Which was a very sweet thing to do. Very sweet thing to do.
Man, I'm so glad we saved this for the last 5 minutes of the pod. Let's talk about your divorce.
It makes me look forward to getting divorced, to be honest.
I would love a rice maker.
Listen, an uncontested divorce is quite a thing.
That seems,
they're getting rid of it.
Crispy clean.
Oh, no, never mind. I'm thinking of no-fault divorce.
No, I think you can still.
I mean, that's kind of the same thing. That's what I mean, no-fault divorce.
Getting rid of it.
In Washington State, though, where we were living at the time, if it's like no-fault uncontested, you can actually file by mail. If it's it has to be notarized and everything, and then
You never have to look at them.
and I don't know if this law is the same way. You have to file, and then you have to wait 90 days to file again. Like they sort of have a cooling down period. It's almost like you have to file, and then the "Are you sure?" is 90 days
because
later.
Before they had that law, they would get 50 a fucking day. And they'd be like, I changed my mind. And they're like, we already processed it. Don't call back here.
He finally bought a new pair of pants. We can stay married. Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh. Well, thanks for coming in. Your obsession was divorce. And
Thank you, yeah.
Delightful.
Do we have any other questions? We don't have any other questions.
I think we can let's plug the book.
Yeah, let's plug the book. It's called Good Game, No Rematch. It is available anywhere books are sold. It's a hardcover, digital, audio. I read the audiobook, so if this voice has done you well, you can listen to it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, and
cool.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you can ask your library to get a copy, ask your independent bookstore, available anywhere.
Theodore's Books in Oyster Bay.
Yep.
Sure.
I got copies.
And that place in Vermont we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
On another podcast. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you to Mike Drucker sharing his love and obsession of the video game.
And thank you to all you listeners. You should check out Mike's book. It's called Good Game, No Rematch.
And Dan, where are you at on social media?
Oh, I'm at Dan Wilbur Comedy on the soon-to-be purchased by an American buyer TikTok and Instagram. And then I'm also at Dan Wilbur on various other websites.
I am at Zach Sims Comedy on the TikTok, which we know will be purchased by a very noble man. We can only hope. And also Zach Sims on Instagram. Also, you can see Dan and I performing stand-up comedy each and every Wednesday at 7:30 in Park Slope at Young Ethel's. The show is called We Have Fun. You can find that on Instagram as well.
We Have Fun comedy show.
Until next week, get those hobbies, hobby holers.